Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to all to our yet another session of Hats Off series by Teachers Help Teachers. I'm Rakhi Chabria, the founder of Teachers Help Teachers, and today I bring to you Dr. Coomi Viviena, who is going to be sharing her inspiring journey all through her years, how she has evolved, and how educators can learn from leaders like her. Ma'am, a very warm welcome to you on our platform, Teachers Help Teachers.
Thank you, Rakhi. Delighted to be here and delighted to share the little I know.
Wonderful. Ma'am, you describe yourself to be an educational futurist. So, my first question to you is going to be about what is meant by an educational futurist and what is exactly the role of an educational futurist?
I'll put it very briefly, of course. An educational futurist very carefully scrutinizes current trends in education and visualizes where the trajectory leads. So, the kind of educational systems that we have today, are they going to be relevant after 2027, which is when machines are going to start thinking like human beings and even display emotional intelligence? Are we really preparing our children for that kind of world, the kind of world that they will be facing? We are increasingly being told that more changes will happen in the next 20 years than in 300 years of human history. So, is our educational system geared to really prepare the children for change? With 65% plus of the current jobs being redundant, how do we plan content? What are our objectives? To me, the entire educational system needs serious overhauling. We need to rethink our educational objectives, our learning outcomes, our teaching pedagogies. We have to take into consideration online and offline learning and e-learning in a very, very big way. What is going to be our role? How are we really going to help young learners and prepare them for the future? Absolutely. So the reason I call myself as an educational futurist is because I talk about these trends in my book, and I have worked out a very simple technique called technopoiesis, which is a mode of thinking which will result, hopefully, in a change in consciousness. It's been tried and tested in India and abroad, and it seems to work. And I say this in humility.
Wonderful, ma'am. And I'm sure with our recent workshop lined up with you, you're going to be touch upon these aspects of your research and help educators evolve and learn more from you.
Absolutely. And we learn from each other constantly. There's never a day that a teacher can afford not to learn, because the transformations are exponential. We need to keep pace, otherwise we get fossilized.
Very true.
There is no other alternative.
And while you are sharing your thoughts, I'm learning. So my next question to you is, what brought you into education? What made you choose education as a profession?
Well, that's interesting. I never wanted to be anything else. But it was a big joke in the family. From the age of 3, I was writing to Santa Claus for blackboard and chalk. And I was labeled a dullard. My rank would be 29th out of 35 students. I would be blissfully unaware of the world, and my parents would be in a state of constant panic. And to the entire family, it was a big joke that this one who hates studies wants to be a teacher. But I still wanted to be a teacher. And every single year, I kept writing to Santa Claus for blackboard and chalk. Till one day, Santa Claus got really irritated with me and wrote back to say, "Can't you ask for something else like a normal girl?" And the content did not concern me. In my naivete, I ran to my dad and said, "Dad, you and Santa Claus have the same handwriting." But while this journey continued of being a stupid dullard in class, not interested in anything except elocution and dramatics and singing and dancing, there was one teacher who changed my life in the first year of my college. And at that time, I knew I wanted to be that kind of inspirational teacher, not a motivational teacher. because motivation keeps coming from outside. Inspiration comes from within. So I wanted to be that kind of inspirational teacher. And that's where my journey began. And then later, when I went for interviews and I was asked this kind of question, why do you want to be a teacher? I said, I've never wanted to be anything else. I may have other talents, but no, teaching is absolutely my passion.
Wow. As you say this, it brings me back to my childhood days, where even I had one such teacher who changed my life. So it's fantastic, ma'am, that you got inspired by that teacher, and we have you in education.
And can you imagine that if every teacher takes on this leadership role of being an inspirational teacher, the entire world will be different. That's why I keep saying we need the best minds in education.
Absolutely, ma'am.
If we want to bring about a serious change in the world, we need the best minds to come into education.
I hope that with the coming years, this trend changes and we see passionate educators coming in with the best minds to change the future, because as you said, that the future is uncertain, and the amount of changes that are going to come in the next 20 years are going to be more challenging than the times that we have lived in.
But this is not going to be now an option. It's not something we may or may not do. It is a necessity, because we need to really prepare our children for the kind of technological age that they'll be living in, which is beyond our imagination. We can perhaps only see 5 years or 7 years into the future. We can't see anything more than that. Children will need to be taught digital ethics. They will be literally forced to perhaps change their profession every 10 years, because the profession they are in may become redundant. Yeah. So now it's not a choice, it's a necessity.
It's a necessity.
So we really need to have the best minds in education now.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that there are a lot of listeners who are going to be inspired by what you just spoke, and we are going to be having the best minds in education. So moving on to the next question, what are the 3 foundation skills, according to you, that every educator needs to possess? I think you've already touched upon number 1 being the best mind. So,
well, when I say best mind,
yes,
it is, as India's greatest educational thinker Jiddu Krishnamurti rightly said, reason and intuition. They need to develop side by side, hand in hand. Critical thinking is going to be absolutely vital, and not mugging, not memorizing. So developing critical thinking, at the same time developing intuition, is going to be the need of the hour. At the same time, I think teachers do need to possess emotional intelligence. Most importantly, they should love kids, their learners, unconditionally. We all tend to have favorites, but that is why I keep insisting in all my workshops that self-awareness is absolutely vital for teachers. If I do not know myself, I'm unconsciously projecting all my neuroses, I'm using the word with caution, on a child. Why does that child trigger me? If that child triggers me, I have to look at myself. I have to look within. Have I ever been taught to do that? No, so I better learn. That's where the journey of a teacher today should begin. It should begin with self-awareness, with understanding the different layers of the mind and knowing, importantly, how to cope with them. So if a child triggers me, what is it in you that I cannot accept about me? It's all about me. If it wasn't about me, I wouldn't get triggered. But if I do, then I need to work on myself instead of pointing fingers and saying, oh, that kid really irritates me. So, a lot of work has to be done. And that is why you need people who are open-minded and literally, I know this word is a cliche, but literally lifelong learners.
Absolutely. So we have a hashtag called as the lifelong learner, where every time a teacher attends a session conducted or hosted by Teachers Help Teachers, we give them a badge saying, I'm a lifelong learner. Because that's one way of applauding their efforts. for them coming out of their house and coming all the way to attend the session. So, with this question, I would like to ask you that since the onus is on the educator to not only be competent when it comes to language, communication, social emotional skills, mindfulness, maybe actually it's actually regarded that the teacher needs to be a magician who should be capable of moving her magic wand, but of course that's not the situation that a teacher.
I wouldn't say that, Rakhi. I would say that firstly, mindfulness is just
Absolutely.
understood in a very external sense of being mindful of your environment and the people around you. But mindfulness starts with being mindful about your own inner self. Your own inner landscape must be familiar to you. At the same time, I don't feel you are required to have the skills of a magician. I think you're required to be fully human.
Well said.
I don't think it's impossible. I mean, why do we limit it by saying, oh my God, 20 million things are required of us as teachers? Well, we are capable of 40 million things, probably.
Very true, ma'am.
That's
So why
my
limit
take
your
on it.
potentiality when
Yeah.
you know that you're capable of much more? And as ma'am rightly pointed out, it's all about being human. So we are not promoting brands out here, but yes,
Yes,
it's all
not at
about
all. Not at all.
it's all about being human as an educator and being present in the moment. I think children really look up to that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And how can you be present without being mindful? If I am thinking of my baggage, which I have come to the class with,
Yes.
if I'm bringing in all the stereotypes that I have consciously or unconsciously imbibed, I am not present. I am tackling the present based on the past, and therefore it's bound to be ineffective.
Yes.
But if I could actually attend to a child who has not done his or her homework and not say, all right, put up your hands, who has not done the homework, all right. No, but the why, that's why teachers need to really cultivate empathy, deep understanding, and at all times managing to remain perfectly centered. Now, this is the ideal, I know. At sometimes we are human, we may go off balance. But if you are aware of it, you're able to come back to your center very quickly.
Very true.